Despite the OSWAs having 6 nominations for everyone in every single category, it's still not enough. It's still not enough. My nominations didn't make it. My nominations didn't get through. They are certainly not all of them anyway. It's just part of it. It means that the ones that are nominated are special, and it means that there's lots of other ones that are going to potentially make it in future. But tonight, so that I don't talk about the ones that are nominated, I'm going to try and keep things positive, and I'm going to try and shine a wee light on the ones that I am a wee bit sad never made it through. I hope you can share yours too, either in a live chat or in the comments underneath. It'd be fantastic to hear what you wish had made the OSWAs in 2022. I'll see you all in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to vPub. Welcome to another Thursday night. I hope you're all doing really, really well. Yes, wanted to dedicate a night to something about the OSWAs that can actually talk about. By the way, this isn't a blanket policy that's been put out by myself, Ralphie, or anyone. If other channels, other contributors, other reviewers, other voices involved in the OSWAs want to go ahead and just talk about whatever's been nominated, review them, do whatever, shout about what they nominated, it doesn't really matter. But it's just that some of us, Ralph and I included, have chosen to just kind of step back from the ones that are involved in the nominations and do, we can still talk about these distilleries and these products, but, don't review them. Try and go gently with it. I know that Ralphie has just shared a Springbank video this week, so you can see that, he's, even though Springbank is just through for distillery, I don't think there's any Springbank product being nominated in terms of bottles. But generally, we've just tried to be a bit light touch about this, just for those 3 weeks that the public vote is live, right? We just need 3 weeks where we don't kind of focus on those nominations. We don't want to be seen to be guiding our community too much, or try and kind of campaign for our favourites or whatever. Not that anybody would accuse us of such a thing, and not that we would have any capability of actually swaying such a huge scale thing just through one voice. However, that's kind of just the best code of practice, I think. It's just the best way to play it. But tonight, I'm going to focus on the things that I'm either sad they didn't make it, or I feel like I kind of almost understand why they didn't make it. But I'm going to try and keep things positive tonight, because whiskey's supposed to be positive. It's supposed to be fun, and there's too much negativity around, let's be honest. I'm responsible for some of that negativity from time to time, like anyone else. But tonight I'm going to try to focus on things that I think should be valid. Certainly things that if they appeared in the OSWA nominations, you would not be surprised. I've got 19 bottles littered around me tonight. I'm not going to go through 19 bottles with you. I'm certainly not going to sip 19 bottles. I'm not going to review 19 bottles. I'm just going to be dwelling on some and just kind of having a, pick up and flash it at the camera type thing, acknowledge it and put it to the side. And a few of them along the way, depending on my mood, depending on your mood, depending on your feedback, we may stop and dwell and discuss a wee bit. Before we get into all of that, before we get into any housekeeping or whatever, I think the best thing to do while everybody's getting settled is just jump straight into the lounge and welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. How are you all doing? Please tell me. Teddy KGB asked me a question. Good to see you, Teddy. And he said, Roy, would you advise me to buy Hazelburn 10 if I love Springbank 10? Yes, Teddy, I would. With the caveat that as long as you don't expect it to be the same. The only thing that ties the two together is that they both have that wee bit of Campbelltown funk about them. They're both malt whiskies from Campbelltown, both from the same distillery. One is triple distilled. And depending on the cask that it's been in, the triple distilled Hazelburn, it's super affected by that. Of course, everything is, isn't it? But I would say that if you buy, this is just in my experience, if you buy a regular Hazelburn, I think it's a tasty thing. It's not my favourite Springbank, but that's a wee bit like favourite child, isn't it? It's all Springbanks are pretty fabulous. Anyway, the Hazelburn is probably my least, but it's still a lovely whiskey. I've got a Hazelburn 10 here and I do quite enjoy it. I would say that it's the easiest one to overpower with cask. So in the past, you've seen things like Barolo casks, you've seen Oloroso cask, really quite dark Hazelburns, and these are good whiskies. These are compelling whiskies that are Marmite for some, but the people who love it really, really passionately love it. My take on that is that it is a fantastic whiskey. Maybe you could argue one that's dialed up, but there's not a lot of Hazelburn left in it. The 10-year-old is not the case. I think the 10-year-old is the most, probably the most balanced example of Hazelburn. And I would recommend you buy it, but just don't use it as a replacement for Springbank 10 because they're different animals, of course. If you're trying to get my attention, I should be signed in under the right account tonight. I can see lots of orange. Just type Aquavite and I should have it highlighted to me. Somebody, I just missed something popping up there. I don't want to miss that. Alan Newland is celebrating being a member of Aquavite Barflies for 8 months. My, how time flies. Oh, I see what you did there, Alan. Thanks for your support, my friend, and I hope you're enjoying being a member of the Barflies. Alan and everyone else that clicks that join button on a desktop, there's no join button if you're watching on mobile, but if you're watching on desktop, there's a join button underneath. And for $1.99 a month of whatever your currency is where you are, dollars, pounds, euros, whatever it may be, you keep all the vPubs and all the Aquavite content ad-free, so you don't ever sit through ads. The content won't be monetized. And in return, you get these little loyalty badges, the Barfly badges that everybody's showing off here, but you get lots and lots of whiskey-themed and channel-themed emoji to colour the chat, either in the live chat here or in the comments underneath. People like having fun with those, but I suspect the thing that they enjoy most is not having to sit through ads. Bill Monteith is here tonight. Bill, it's so good to see you, my friend. I know you've struggled to get in recently. You're actually saying glad to be live with you. Bill, it's always wonderful to welcome you in, my friend. Why is this camera doing this tonight? Why have I suddenly gone completely blurry? Somebody smearing Vaseline on the screen here. What is going on? Camera's having a funny 5 minutes. Let's try this tonight. Let's try that. Let's see if, now it means that if I'm holding things up to the lens, it might not focus. No, it doesn't want to. So I might not have that, but I might not have the blurry thing. It's every time I set the lighting like this and I wear a black shirt, it does this thing. It does. Hopefully it's okay. Good to have you in, Bill. Anyway. Molasses Mike, good evening. Good to see you, Mike. He's saying, got my Aquavite barrel pick and my grubby little hands excited to dive into it tonight. A barrel pick, yeah, that'll be the Loch Lomond. I hope you enjoy it, Mike. I think it's fabulous, and I have very little left. A wee bit sad when I glance over and see how the level in that bottle is. It leaks, Mike, that's what I'll say. Luna Aaron is saying, hello, dear, Roy, and I hope you are fine. I hope you're fine too, Luna. Listen, I'll apologise I don't need to apologise because I was fine. Last week, I wasn't feeling particularly well when the vPub went live, and I had a wee chat before I went live with my guest, Jeff. I loved hanging out with Jeff last week. It was great fun. And I mentioned to Menno and Jeff, I think, before we went live, I'm not feeling great. And I got through the vPub last week, and my temperature got higher and higher, and I started to get a headache that was more and more. And on the Friday, I got nothing done at all. I struggled to get out of my bed. I was lethargic, heavy around the house, running a fever, just not feeling great at all. By Saturday, it was fine again. So it was a very, very quick thing. So I got away with it last week, I think. So Luna, I am feeling great tonight. It's good to have you in. Ian Bruce has just joined Aquavite Barflies. Ian, thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for your support. Seb K is in tonight, now settled in Portugal, I hope, Seb. I hope you're doing well. I'm getting massive FOMO because I don't have a pink barfly, and I'm only some wee grey beastie. How long do I have to wait to be upgraded? That's a wee surprise. The pink barfly comes along. after a significant amount of time, if I'm honest, Seb. But enjoy the colours, because you don't get them back again. Once you're pink, everything else is just a memory. So it's wonderful to see you in, Seb, and I hope you're settled in. You and the family are settled in Portugal. Jimmy Leggis, heel lol, the face and the black shirt are too much contrast. Absolutely, Jimmy, for any camera to handle. Is it keeping up? Is it? It's even struggling now, isn't it? Yeah, I just, that's very frustrating. It's just black. If I wear a navy t-shirt, it's fine. Look at my eyes. It's a face. Please stay focused on this face. Daniel Williams is saying manual focus the camera and switch autofocus off. I know that's the obvious thing to do. I'm not going to do it now, but what I want to be able to do is show you kind of bottles and things, especially tonight when I've got so many bottles glancing across the screen, buddy. But yes, it's lock off the focus. It just, maybe I'll have to do that. Maybe I just change the lighting. Don't wear a black shirt. Tim Hoekstra is suggesting that it's one racist camera and whiskey with Molly. Ben is saying, evening, Roy. Thanks for sorting out the ticket this week. Much appreciated. Ben, you were just very fortunate, my friend. If I see anybody that's got a ticket that pops up and they've got one free, and I know that somebody's waiting for one, or I'll try and connect them or whatever. But it's great that we're going to be able to see the Glasgow Whisky Festival. Doc McCallan, fine and rare, is saying it's Scotch Mist, Roy. You're unchill filtered and not coloured. Fantastic. Well, let's just hope that it stays. Let's hope the camera stays chill filtered and not too coloured. Whiskey Straight Alice saying, I'll send you a good old Northern Ireland balaclava. And John Bell is saying, move the bottle near the camera on your left. Near the... I wonder if it's supposed to be focused on my face. That's what it's supposed to be doing. Whiskey Novice Jim is saying, howdy folks, howdy Roy, how we all doing? Good to see you, Jim. Hey, I was supposed to be hanging out with Jim on Monday night, and he's live streaming. I had a tasting booked. We were at Glasgow Whisky Club, hosted by Annandale, a distillery that's almost never mentioned on the VPub, Annandale. But we had 6 really interesting whiskies from them on Monday night. And it's made me kind of want to look at them again. But it's a kind of a oddly positioned product, let's say, Annandale. And I want to do a bit more digging to work out what's going on there and if there's any plans to change that. Pierre Croof is saying, taps off then. Good idea. Do you think I should just sit here, taps off, Pierre? It's Glaswegian for t-shirtless. Somebody's bought me a wee dram. I don't want to miss that. It looks like Drew from Arizona. It looks like Drew's wee icon. It is Drew. Special thanks to you, Roy, for all you do, whether it's storing bottles of your release, snagging Glasgow Whisky Festival tickets, or numerous other great things. Cheers. So I don't snag Glasgow Whisky Festival tickets. That doesn't happen. I don't have some magical supply or anything. I book a chunk. I commit a chunk because I know that people are not organised and they don't get it. And the session that we go to is the early one, and it sells out very quickly. So I book that chunk and buy that chunk up front, knowing that a crowd of us are going to go. I always buy too little, but at £40 a ticket, you only need to buy 10 and you're £400 outlay. So it's tough, right? What I do try to do is work out where people are not able to go, or their group of 4 suddenly becomes a 3 or a 2 or something like that, and there's tickets going, and I encourage that kind of, I've got a ticket if anybody wants it in the Barflies group on Facebook, things like that, just so that tickets can get in the hands of people that actually want to go and couldn't get their hands on a ticket. What has become of Whiskey Geek? Where's Ben? Miss him and his magic. I stay in touch with Ben. He's doing very, very well. Ben has got a very young family, a fairly early career, and a very, very busy life. And when things get intense, he needs to step back and take a bit of a hiatus, a bit of a break, an extended summer break, if you like. And I've always encouraged Ben to do that when he needs to do it. I think all of us should do it. Don't try and force the content. Don't try and force, because then it becomes a chore and people need to feel the passion, especially when it comes to Ben and his content. So I've always encouraged them to much like when I encourage you guys to be here, only be here because you want to be here, because you're in the mood. And if you're not in the mood, it's fine. You can go take as long a break as you need to, forever if you need to. But I hope that you come back again enjoying it and things. And that should be the same for any creator, anybody on this side of the camera too. So Ben's having a wee extended break. I'm in touch with him and he's doing very well. I'll let him know that you were asking after him. That's very nice of you. You need a second camera setup, says Daniel Williams. And Falsgraf is saying that last Thursday in Ireland, stay well, Roy. Not going to stay long, but listening in a bit. Oh, Falsgraf. Okay, you're in Ireland right now, are you, buddy? That's amazing. Fantastic. And Teddy is saying, what is... Oh, okay, I picked that one up, Teddy. I did get that. It scrolled backwards for some reason. And Lee J. Brown is saying, confirmed flights today. Oh, you're flying up, Lee J. Must be from Bristol. Looking forward to Glasgow. Will be great to finally shake yours and many other hands. Lee J, I can't wait to see you, my friend. That will be amazing. I hope you enjoy it when you get here. And Jay is in Glasgow right now. Jay Chung has bought me a dram to say great to be back in the VPub. And he's actually in the VPub on real time because he's West Coast US. So it's the middle of his working day normally, but he's in Glasgow right now. And I'm hoping that I get a chance to meet with Jay ever so briefly while he's in Glasgow this time. But I leave to go on holiday on Saturday. And more about that in a wee minute. Whiskey Straight Alice saying, well said, Roy, family comes first. Always, my friend. Always, buddy. Good to see you in as well. I hope you're keeping well, my friend. Trainsar Evil. That looks like a new name. He's saying hello from Berkeley, California. I wanted to buy a dram last week during your chat with Jeff, but the link icon wasn't there. I'll buy a dram today instead. I don't know where. Maybe you were somewhere else. Maybe you're in a different part of the world. Maybe you're logged in under a different account. But regardless, my friend, trains are evil. In Berkeley, California, thank you very much for your dram. Cheers to you. I'll leave a wee spot left in that. That's what I've been sipping as I got set up tonight. So I got that one. I think I'm up to date. I got everyone's super chats and things. Yes, I hinted there. Chris Banks is on Isla. Well done, Chris. I hope you're having some fantastic time out there, and I hope you're picking up some new otter pictures. Family comes first. And on that note, it's school holidays. It's October. It's midterm, isn't it? So rather than have the kids around the house and us trying to work and things, that's when we try and schedule a wee break. So on Thursday next week, I won't be here on Thursday. I'll be away. I'll actually be on the island of Arran. It's a nightmare because we've got contractors around the house and things, but they'll just need to get on without me. And it means that there won't be a VPub from me next week. But one of the reasons I'm wearing this shirt tonight, the other reason is in solidarity, actually, and I'm going to touch on that ever so briefly. But Vin is going to take care of the pop-up VPub next week, and he's going to host the VPub. He's been preparing some things to make it look and feel like the VPub. I don't know if Menno's available to hop in and help him do a quiz or whatever. I should have reached out to Menno to see if that's even possible. But the idea is just to kind of lift the whole thing, much like Shayla has taken care of in the past. As we've already mentioned, Whiskey Geek Ben also took care of a pop-up VPub last year as well. And it's kind of nice to be able to do that. It's nice to be able to kind of collaborate and hand it out to folk and encourage people that don't normally do live streams too much occasionally to step into the space and host a wee live stream and get a bit of fun out of it, community fun out of it, and a bit of a buzz out of it. So, yes, next week, Vin, and I'll just grab his channel link. I hope that everybody's knows No Nonsense Whiskey. He's been going longer than I have. Vin was famously, I said it last week as well, my 11th subscriber. So I've just dropped in my California Rare saying that would be a VinPub. Absolutely, absolutely. So go along, if you don't know Vin, subscribe to his channel now based on that link I've dropped in. And what will happen is you'll get notifications if you click the bell. A notification to remind you that the VPub's on will pop up and that it's on his channel, not here next week. But it's going out, I believe it's going out at the same time, but you'll have to kind of watch what Vin puts out. You may choose to host it at a slightly different time. Whiskey Weekend Dram Harrow is saying going to Lag. I hope to be going to Lag. It's a family holiday, so it'll need to be sneaky. But they do a lunch there, so I may try and pick up lunch at Lag. And Don McCausland is saying, sweet, definitely excited about a Vin vPub. Fantastic, Don. I know that Vin will be excited to welcome you there. The VinPub. Family breaks for the win and a VinPub then. Fantastic, Helen. Whisky Street Alice saying, wow, it'll be a VinPub. Cool. He'll do great. He will do great. Very good. I've offered it to Vin in the past, but it's just worked out this time that he's free and he can do it and he can take it on board. Reb is saying he won't make the VPub next week because he'll be crossing the Mediterranean Sea and be in Scotland the next Sunday. Fantastic, Reb. Terrific stuff. I know you'll be excited about that. I'm wearing this shirt with a wee bit of solidarity as well. There was a bit of a horrible, really fun-poking video that was released on socials today, and it targeted my friends. It targeted collaborative channels that I work with, channels that I respect. And it was all about the OSWAs. And it was all about the idea that we talk about integrity and transparency, and we talk about no sponsorships, no paid promotions, no partnerships, all of that, which is absolutely 100% the case. The OSWAs are fully funded by Ralphie and me and no one else right now. And it's structured in such a way that even if there was paid content coming in from any angle or any one individual or even a small group, we would pick it up. It would be very obvious. And we ask people that when they get involved in the OSWAs, we ask them for a couple of things. One of them is trust, their trust, to trust in us. And they do that wholeheartedly. And the other thing is that the things that they put forward has to be things that's their own purchases, things that they believe in themselves, things that they would recommend, things that they would buy and buy again. They know that. You don't need to force feed people these things. Some of the collaborators that we have different models to fund their channel. It's different from mine. I've managed to do this. I managed to fund mine through the community. Other channels use a much more traditional model of a hybrid model or fully funded and supported by industry, sponsorships, partnerships, whatever they can take. All of these ways to run a channel, a bit like almost like a mini business or funding your hobby or whatever it is, all of these are valid ways to do it. All that we ask is that they're transparent about it. And my experience of YouTube is that they are transparent about it. So when there's a paid promotion, there's a banner that says paid promotion. On Instagram, I see that too. Yes, there's an argument there. If they're not transparent about it, then there's some discussion to be had. But in my experience, that's not the case. This video went out today to suggest that the OSWAs were funded in this way through this kind of third-party thing, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. When you live in YouTube for long enough, you get pretty thick-skinned about these things. But this was cruel. This was poking fun for comedic effect and delegitimize everything. But rather than focus on the OSWAs, they focused on some of the contributing channels and poked fun at them. So that's a bit of a shame because they've stepped forward to support Ralphie and I's initiative, the community initiative of the OSWAs. And because of the way they fund their channel of occasion, they had fun poked at them. I apologize to them all for that. I know that I don't need to. And I know that all of those channels are super thick-skinned and they don't really care. And I know that they wouldn't have even seen it because it was such a silly little thing. The only reason it was shared is because it's brought to my attention because one or two people saw it. It was very small. Let me say, from the outset, we've known that the OSWAs can never be a perfect model. It's never going to be a perfect model. It's a different model. You could argue that it's a complementary model. There's no tasting panel. We don't sit right down in a quiet room and we're contemplative over categories of whiskies, and we're not sitting with a judging panel. We're crowdsourcing this thing out to creators and the community. It's a very different take. And the only way that you can do that on that scale is to be as open and transparent as possible. And I hope that you see that if you go through the process. I hope you see that if you take 5 minutes to read the website. I hope that you see that in the nominations show and also the ceremony at the end. It's impossible for us to appease everyone. The only people that react in that way are people that are either feel threatened or they're super cynical or they've got something to lose directly. But as time goes on, I hope that everyone will settle with it and realize that it's nothing to be afraid of. It's a positive thing for whiskey. There's nothing about the OSWAs that is used to throw dirt, and it's really meant to celebrate whiskey, and the whiskies that are celebrated are chosen by us as a joint force, as a community of creators, and as a community of whiskey enthusiasts. So I'm wearing this because some of my pals took a wee bit of a hit in a hack job today, and that's a bloody shame, because I'm super precious about our community here, and I know that you guys are too. Loy Pinheiro, that looks like a new name. Ignore the noise. Your authenticity is infectious. I think, Loy, you've got a point, and it does look like a new name to me, my friend. It's nice to welcome you in here. But I think what happens is that over time, you can't really just have a quick interaction or even one vPub and build trust. You can't have a subscription on your channel and watch a couple of videos and build trust. I think this has to happen over time. So even if you are holding up a bottle and saying, hey, I got this bottle sent to me, but I'm going to review it faithfully anyway, you're saying those words. You're being transparent, and people apply their own rational intelligence to that. And I do, Loy, ignore the noise, but I get a wee bit upset. I can deal with it when it's me. I get a wee bit upset when other people step forward to support us and they end up taking a sting for it, right? Ignore the haters, you're saying they're just noise. Fantastic, my friend. It's wonderful to have you in here and have your support. And Greg Watchman999 is saying, where's the hit piece? I would love to read it. I won't agree, but I would still like to read. And that's the problem, is that people would like to go and see it, but it's not really, there's no criticism in it. Actually, what it criticizes, ironically, twistedly, is it's pointing out these channels that they're involved with the OSWAs. That's obvious. We tell everyone who they are. And then it points out that they do paid promotions. So what it's saying is that it's pointing out the transparency on their channels. They're doing a paid promotion and they're putting a banner up there. They're vocalizing it and saying that it's a paid promotion. They're telling people that it was sent to them. There's no hidden agenda here. They're being honest. And that is what is being criticized. So I want to ask, what's the alternative? That they don't do it at all, and then maybe their channel doesn't exist because they can't fund it. They don't do it at all, and you don't have an outlet to watch. I mean, what's the alternative? It's everybody. It doesn't have to be our way or my way or the highway. It's intended to be inclusive. All we're looking for is honesty. Will this just be down to jealousy? I don't know, Ian, but I really don't know. I've probably given it too many minutes already. There will always be people not happy with the way things are run, but after having watched the video, I could only laugh at the effort. Examples taken from a huge... 3 examples taken from a huge number of nominations. That's right. MM Karsten is back again. Good to see you, MM. He's saying good evening. It's good to welcome you back in. And Sandro Fazzolari saying, anyone who has visited the website knows the OSWAs are the real McCoy and fully transparent. But what's happening is that people aren't, or they're just maybe reading the website and thinking that it's just marketing spiel or yada, yada, yada. And they're not, I think they're not even reading it. There was another comment that broke on Twitter. I say broke, it was just mentioned on Twitter. It was brought to my attention because the OSWAs were tagged. And it was laughing about the fact that you can vote without ever needing to taste the whiskies. So what they're doing is just comparing it to a very traditional model of a tasting panel type award scheme and not really spending any time to process what it actually is and how it's complementary to all of that. It is what it is, but it's still good fun. Whiskey Games is saying, did you see the Offerman Lagavulin promo video? There's someone that has a lot of fun promoting whiskey. No, I didn't see it, but I can imagine that would be quite fun to see. I think there's another Offerman Lagavulin out. I think they're on the 3rd or 4th release, aren't they? Whiskey Straight Alice saying, I've got 3 samples arriving tomorrow from a distillery. They reached out to me, and when I review them, the paid promotion banner will be up. They reached out to me, not me to them. That's normally the way it happens. Absolutely, Al. And what you do is you review them, and if you don't give it a very good review and they never contact you again, You never contacted them anyways. It's fine. You're not sitting there kind of waiting for an offer to come over for you to create content, right? We're all accumulating whiskies. But what happens is a way to help us accumulate whiskies, I imagine, for some of the channels that do it in this way, is that a paid thing will come along, or a free sample or something will come along, and that helps them get out some more content. And when they're transparent about it, where's the loss? It's optional. All of this is optional for everybody to watch and enjoy. And if you don't want to watch it, you just don't watch it. Doc McCallum saying, my mum told me to always ignore idiots. Good for your blood pressure. Don't give them a stage. Thank you for indulging me then, Doc, and not listening to your mum. Jaime, not Jamie, is here to say maybe they wish they thought of the OSWAs concept first. I'm not sure what it is. David Brody is in. Good to see you, David. I hope you're doing well over there, sharing all the news from the veranda, my friend. It's wonderful to welcome you in the VPub. All right, I tell you, I'm going to get through this, but I'm going to do a wee bit of housekeeping. I've told you about Vin is hosting the VPub next week. Fantastic. Means that I can relax on holiday next week. I'll drop in the link one more time, just to make sure that if you want to be catching the VPub next week, you need to be subscribed to Vin. But also in the comments section last week, somebody, I've wrote down his name, Sam Trethaway, pointed out that he was in Cornwall and he's got some buddies near him, but there's no club, and he was thinking about getting together with folk and maybe starting something. And I've realised that, to my knowledge, there hasn't been that kind of coming together of folk down in the southwest, or as far southwest as Cornwall. So Paul Reed got involved in the chat and the discussions, and they ended up having a chat between each other. Paul's in Turkey, I think, a wee bit further away. So they're looking at doing something. So if you're watching this from the southwest, if you're down in Devon, Cornwall, or that area down there, reach out through the comments. Look at the comments thread of last week and pick out Sam Trethaway's comment. If you scroll down and search for the word Cornwall, Command F, and search for Cornwall, you should find the comment. Or you can reach out to me directly and I can put you in touch with each other. Of course I can. I would be very happy to do that. The amount of clubs that's been spawned out of this community, the amount of gatherings, the amount of tastings, the amount of events, the amount of friendship groups, I want to encourage as much of that as absolutely possible. It's fantastic. I'm going to have the last wee drop of this before I tell you what I've been sipping. I'll tell you how I'm going to structure the run through of all of these bottles tonight. I'm going to start open with a bottle that I know you're going to be a wee bit frustrated isn't included in the OSWAs. And I'm going to finish on a bottle that I know you're going to be frustrated that isn't included in the OSWAs. But for me, both of these, objectively, I know are good and interesting whiskies. I'll go as far to argue that they're even good value. And as far as I'm aware, they're pretty naturally presented. Maybe not full ABCDs, but close. One of them is certainly full ABCDs. And yet, they just don't sit with me perfectly. And I think that's the wonderful thing about whiskey. And it's a wonderful thing about the OSWAs, because one or two of my nominations got through. Two of the things that I wanted to see through got through. But a lot of them, they just fell by the wayside, or they just didn't get any traction. They didn't. The things that I wanted to see come through in the OSWAs didn't make it. That's the point of the OSWAs. It's no one person's initiative. I can talk about all of the ones that didn't get through tonight because I'm not affecting anything. But I'm hopefully helping shine a wee bit of light on the ones that I know that you could potentially be frustrated that never made it through too. Whiskey Franco's bought me a dram as well, sending a virtual dram for good vibes and all the support you provide, and of course all the barflies. Thank you so much, Whiskey Franco. I need to put something else in the glass, and I'll raise it to you, Franco, when I put something else in the glass. I'm going to watch what I sip tonight. But I've finished this one in my No Nonsense whiskey glass, and this one was a Glen Moray. I know there's a lot of Glen Moray fans out there. I've already held it up to the camera when we were having the focusing problems. This is the 18-year-old, and I bought this a couple of years ago now. I think I bought this as far back as 2020, and there's still just a wee bit shy of half a bottle, maybe half a bottle left. So you can see how much I'm enjoying this. If this was gone, this was just a memory, and it was maybe replaced. That's how you measure what you enjoy, actually, right? Okay, I know you could argue that you're being very careful about some that you really love, but generally speaking, these affordable whiskies, because as an 18-year-old goes, I think I looked up how much this was, did I? I might have forgotten. This is an affordable 18-year-old. So this should be one of these kind of quite nice 18-year-olds that you drink and don't have too much anxiety about replacing. But I don't love it because it's just a wee bit overtly sweet to me. There's always something in Glen Moray that detracts for me a little bit. Sometimes it's fermenty and yeasty. Sometimes it floats a little bit towards a wee bit lactic. But mostly it's kind of a barnyard, farmyard, mulchy note. I don't dislike it. I just don't love it. I know that there's lots of folk out there really loving this very, very sweet, very oaky Glen Moray 18 and enjoying how good value it is for them too. For me, I had a wee go at this tonight as we were setting up and things just to kind of refresh my memory of it, and it's the same. I'm pretty much sure it would be the same if somebody poured this blind for me too. But at 47.2% and a very inexpensive price, Glen Moray 18 is a very valid thing. It doesn't tell us about caramel colour on the bottle anywhere, but it does tell us that it's natural and non-chill filtered. So that's my opener, and I'm going to close out with one of them tonight. In between times, I'm going to go through bottles that I think are almost there. I'm surprised, but I guess I know why they didn't make it. But those are ones that I'm just going to pass over quickly because I don't want this to derail into a negative thing. Maybe they're hard to get, maybe they're expensive, maybe they're presented wrong. All of these things, they're just not quite there yet. Then I'll move quickly into the ones that I feel are valid, and that potentially it could be argued that they should be there on behalf of the community. I'm perhaps talking about these. And then finally, I'm going to finish on the ones that I think, not only am I surprised that they're not there, at least some of them, but I'm a wee bit sad that they're not there too. Let's take this one right off the table right away. I'm not going to talk about this tonight because I've talked about it a lot. Springbank 15, sub £60 for a 15-year-old fully natural whiskey. And it's not just about the presentation and the price, it's about the experience in the bottle. It's fabulous whiskey too, but I've spoken so much about it. The only reason that I've done that tonight is because if I didn't mention Springbank 15, you would be like, what's happened? Is he not enjoying these new bottles that you opened? I can tell you that I am. Look at this. Now, I did pour a huge chunk of that for a friend. I have been sharing this bottle. It's not me that's torn through this in the last 2 weeks. It's still the first bottle. But the reason that I can share it like that and not be anxious about the bottle dropping like that is because it's available and it's decent price. It's delicious. Che Francis saying, I was surprised James Eady wasn't in the OSWAs this year. Also Eddie Rattray, but I guess they could come down to global availability and brand recognition. Che, that's certainly a dynamic. It's worth talking about that, and I hope I touch upon it tonight, that I see the OSWAs as a bookend thing. You could argue that for some, depending on your perspective, it's 50-50. Some people prefer the nominations more than the actual winners. Some people love the buzz of kind of getting excited about their product, making it through, recognition, validation, just the excitement, the buzz of something winning. Whereas others kind of just get the buzz out of having another 6 recommendations in a category to potentially consider or go after. So there's this bookend thing, and I know that throughout that heavy social media sharing part of the year, you're just going to hear a lot about the OSWAs, but it's only for that 3-week window, bookended by the nominations and the awards ceremony at the end of it. Hopefully people have worked out that that's the dynamic of the OSWAs. We will have a ceremony, we will award winners, but we also want to kind of make it clear just how important this nominations side of things is to how important they are. Doc is saying, I met one of the 6 members of the Springbank clan Germany last week. No joke, it exists. Fantastic. Well, they'll be excited to know that through social media sharing and direct messages and things, a lot of people talking about the very recent Old Particular. I've not opened it or tried it yet. It's not a recommendation. But there was a 15-year-old cask strength from Douglas Laying, Springbank 15 as well, for £55. A cask strength version, the same as the official. there's no argument to be had there, nothing to talk about. I bought it blind, I've not tried it. I hope it's a good one. And Loy is saying, what do you think about the Speyburn 10? Is there a big difference between old and new batches? 15 massively overpriced in Dubai, about 75 GBP. It is a wee bit overpriced, I would say. It's £60 or less here. In fact, you can pick it up for less than 55 in some places, Loy. I would say that the Speyburn 10 is a completely different animal. Speyburn 10 is very light. It's meant to be, look, it's 40% ABV. All that mouthfeel and all that texture, all the thickness that I love in that Speyburn 15 is gone from the 10. I've got the 10 sitting up there as well. I don't mind it. It's inoffensive, but there's nothing compelling, and it's a hard one to recommend. It's not intended for us. It's doing a different thing. There's a, what is it called? The Bladnoch as well. There's a non-age statement one as well that comes in under the 10. Similar presentation. I would say when the 15-year-old is so accessible for sub £60, that's your starting point. McAlpine Rare is their targets to try all Speyburns. Wow, the flora and fauna is going to be the hard one for them then, Doc, isn't it? It's only ever one outturn in the 1990s, the most expensive flora and fauna that exists. Whisky with Molly saying, I bought a Douglas Line Speyburn. It is good, especially for £55. Excellent, Ben. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's good to get your thumbs up on it. Whisky is a journey saying, can you tell the difference with Glen Moray pre and post Graham Cool? Oh, no, I don't think I can. I don't think I have enough experience there. Fun one to sit down, though, and have a bit of time with, right? No, I don't have an opinion there, and I don't have enough. I just don't buy enough Glen Moray. I don't know why. Isn't it funny? I hope that you guys out there are buying Glen Moray and you do have a lot more intelligence on it than I do. Alistair Gray saying, have you tried the Speyburn 10 duty-free version, higher ABV? No, I haven't. I did hear that there was a bizarre kind of... because when you're trying to get it duty-free, I think there's a temptation to get the balance of potential profit maximized, right? So it means 40% ABV. Usually often non-age statement, messed around with something different or unique to put some kind of spin on it. Duty-free is getting a bit dull, but it's really nice when things like that comes along. Glen Scotia famously were putting out really good duty-free releases a couple of years ago. Altmore were doing good ones. Balblair was always a rock solid duty-free pickup when it was back in the days of the vintage bottles. You know, there was always a gem to be mined in duty-free or global travel retail, as it's called today. These days, it's just aisles of dull. It's all mouth and no trousers. It's all boxes and bling and stories and colours and there's nothing in the whiskey. There's nothing that speaks to me, but that's the perspective of an enthusiast. Tom McCausland is saying, I agree that overall collection of nominations is more important to me than the winners. So much inspiration. That's interesting, Don, and it's kind of what I was angling at there. And Peter Lee's saying, good evening, everyone. It was such a pleasure to share time with you on Monday at Glasgow Whisky Club, Aquavite. And Jimmy Legg is saying, good evening, my friend, and hope you're going to open the Barfly Loch Lomond. Yeah, that was really nice. Through the Mio network, Peter Lee was able to facilitate a bottle of the Aquavite Loch Lomond and get it over to Jimmy Legg in Canada. Now, if anybody's going to be brutal and honest about that bottle, it's going to be Jimmy Legg. So I hope, now maybe if it's just arrived, bottle shock, it's going to need time to settle, he's going to need time to get his head around it and things. But I would love to hear what Jimmy Legg's take is on the Aquavite Loch Lomond. Kilter Drama is saying, I'd like to say I spend too much on Glen Moray, but I can't say that as it's so reasonably priced. I get you, Gary. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's one of these things that you enjoy. There's a fella I got in touch with years ago on Instagram, and he sent me an entire flight of Glen Moray because he was picking up the distillery exclusives, the handfills, and they were amazing. They were amazing. And I wanted it to be more like that. The stuff that was coming out of the official releases were less. Anyway, let's tear through these. Wee announcement. Look, went in a Good Spirits company earlier this week, and I picked up these two along with this. There's so much to talk about. Look at these two. This is a reasonable staple on my shelf. This is the Glen Scotia Double Cask. I do enjoy it very, very much. 46% ABV, no age statement on it, but through the transparency of the folks behind Loch Lomond Group, we can discover that this is 5-year-old product, then finished in Pedro Jimenez casks. That's the standard Glen Scotia. It's a popular whiskey amongst folk that like this style of whiskey. I enjoy it. I like to have it around. This does have caramel colour in it, but look at this one. It's almost the same, right? It looks the same, but look at that colour, that gorgeous colour. Look at it. Gorgeous. Why is it gorgeous? Please focus on this, because this is a big deal. Non-chill filtered and natural colour. Yes. This is the colour of 5-year-old whiskey. Now, what's super interesting about this is that if you put 5-year-old whiskey into Pedro Jimenez casks, you're going to get a lot of colour out of that PX cask. It's going to bring colour out of the cask. This new release, this is how brave this is. They're asking us to put our money where our mouth is. This is a brave thing by Glen Scotia. They've taken a 5-year-old, they've put it into a rum cask, virtually no colour from the rum cask, right? Virtually nothing. And then said, okay, you want natural colour? There's your natural colour. Now we've got to step up, because they will be, like all the other producers out there, nervous that this is not going to be a commercial success, because people buy with their eyes and they're looking for what they believe the colour of whiskey to be. You and I know better. Look at the colour of my Loch Lomond. Look at the colour of Ardbegs. Look at the colour of Brookladdies. Look at the colour of so many other naturally produced products that don't rely on a sherry cask to influence the colour. That's the colour of it. That's the colour of whiskey. To my eye, it's beautiful, and it tastes that way too. I'll tell you that I've been tasting this and I've enjoyed it. This is an open bottle. You can see I've only had one out of this, but I've had a few out of another bottle, my friend's bottle. And I'm excited to share this with you and my opinion about it. But Glen Scotia is in the running for Category 9, the best Scotch whisky, and also best distillery. So I'm going to leave it at that. That's out there now. People are buying it up. It's the enthusiasts that's buying it up. I want people to understand the weight of what this is, what this means. This is the industry looking on, looking at the enthusiast side of things, giving us what we've been asking for. And then if it doesn't work, they'll step back and say, well, the market didn't respond very well to that lightly coloured rum cask, double cask. We won't be doing that again. It's good whiskey, and it's made all the better by being honest and natural. There's a theme popping up tonight, transparency, right? Molasses Mike is saying, I will personally buy all of it. Please send it my way. I have to admit that I'm thinking about Balvenie Caribbean cask. I'm thinking about the Talisker special releases from rum casks. I'm thinking about Springbank from the rum cask. I never connected with a rum cask. This is different. This is super clean. So I'm reviewing it. I'm reviewing it. Stop. It's very clean and fresh. Tropical fruit, pineapple cubes specifically. Lots of light white sugars. There's nothing that sings rum cask to me. It's very subtle. Mark E is saying, Aquaviti Roy, the Glen Scotia Double Cask is a great and tasty whiskey, a lovely drinker. Fantastic, Mark. I wonder if you're talking about the rum cask or the PX cask. Fantastic. Just trying to grab the orange. And Jaime is saying, some of the palest whiskies I've seen are the DL Big Pete, and I love them. That's right. And I think what we have to do, think about Lagavulin 12, think about so many of those super pale whiskies that we have to talk to people about. This is the real colour of whiskey, and it's wonderful. And when it's left alone and when it's not stripped and you get the mouthfeel and you get everything, it's fantastic. Whiskey Novice Jim is saying, if it's young and it looks like white wine, I'm interested. It's a voice of an enthusiast right there. It's ironically, he calls his channel Whiskey Novice, right? Anyway, let's pick up some of these ones that I'm a wee bit surprised. I've got space for about 8 bottles up here, I think, before I start obscuring my own monitor screen. that I'm a wee bit surprised that haven't been talked about a wee bit more, and I thought that they might start to appear in the nominations, because we love it when brands do this, right? When they switch and they give us what we've been asking for. Royal Brackla did that very thing. In 2020, they relaunched their range. It's pricey, I know that that's what you're going to say. The 18-year-old Palo Cortado, it's just out of the reach of most folk, honestly. But this 12-year-old is not. I'm going to hold something up to justify it. This 12-year-old suddenly went from being a 40% whiskey to being 46% ABV. I do believe they even tell you on it somewhere, natural colour, non-chill filtered on the label, 100% natural presentation, £58. I enjoyed this very much. I thought it was a very good whiskey. I would love Royal Brackla just to be no finish on it at all, but I can understand why they're doing it, because they're trying to bring that kind of that luxurious feel, trying to bring some flavour, some red fruit, some spice, all the things that a sherry cask brings. But this is a super positive step, and we're quiet about it. £58 you're going to tell me is too expensive for even if it's a natural whiskey. Okay, let's park that. Let's move on to this one as well. Another relaunch in 2020, much in the same way as our Royal Brackla, but less of a finish here and more of a full maturation in sherry casks. We don't really know the makeup. We know that it was very European cask forward in the beginning in 2020. Less discussion, less marketing speak about a European oak in the 2021 and this one, the 2022. But all of them are excellent, absolutely excellent whiskies. I have never poured a Glenturret 12 in this new makeup for anybody and have had anybody say anything other, aye, okay, that's good whiskey. £65. You're saying, wait, Roy, it's too expensive. It's too expensive. I hear you. 12-year-old whiskey is £60. £65 is too expensive. What about this one here? This is the doyen of the whiskey enthusiast. People rave about this. They scream about it. They think it's fabulous. This is 40% ABV, aged 12 years, natural colour, unchill filtered. It says so on the label. But it's been £60 for years and now it's closer to 65. But people love it. So are we talking about, you know, it has to be a wee kind of batch variable, small batch distillery in order for us to, you know, Southern Highlands Springbank. That's what this is, right? Does it have to be that in order for us to engage with it? This is fantastic whiskey. Fantastic. We're happy to run out and pay £60 for it. Depending on your mood and depending on the night, I think you might pick up the Royal Brackla and prefer it. On another night, you might pick up that Glenturret 12-year-old. We need to be careful what we're asking for when we're asking for natural, honest, transparent. Because sometimes when we get it, it's risky, it's dangerous for the producer. And sometimes we need to pay for it. I'm not suggesting that the new price for a 12-year-old whiskey should be £60. But sherry casks are expensive. Small batch releases from sherry casks are expensive. Fully natural is risky. It's only my opinion, and I'll say this very softly. If it was me, 12-year-old whiskey, fully natural at £60, sherry cask, or £48, but lower ABV, stripped and coloured, all of these things diluted more, whatever it is, chill filtered, no thank you. It's clear. It means a lot to me, not just because of some ink on a label, because of the flavour experience. Not individual drams, not comparing one against the other. Over my journey of whiskey, it makes a big difference to me. I think that the reason that 2 out of the 3 of those never get nominated is price point. And I think that the reason that Edradour never made it through is because a wee bit price point, but because of availability, and it's still a wee bit of a cult whiskey. Jaime's saying, love Royal Brackla 12. I was lucky to grab my 3 bottles for £30 each. My goodness, I don't know where you got that from. I hope you mean the new version, because there's an older version with a navy blue label on it. Be careful, it's 40% ABV. It's not bad whiskey, it's just not this whiskey. It's a much more diluted experience. And Loy is saying, I was surprised not to see any Tamdhu whiskey release. Makes the OSWAs haven't had a bad one yet. And the Whiskey Franco is saying, I never raised a glass to you, Franco. Okay. Tell you, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pour for Loy a wee tiny Tamdhu, because it goes along with these other ones. This is about 80 quid, 75, 80 pounds now. This is the batch strength. I've not bought one in a long time. This is batch number 3. My goodness, I think they're up to about batch 7 or 8 now. So I've not bought this in a long time, and it's purely because of price. And I've got lots of kind of sherry-styled whiskies on the cabinet, to be honest with you. You've plenty of them. If I'm in the mood for this style of whiskey, I've got lots of this stuff. I've got lots of this dark mahogany with sherry cask stuff. I'm a fan of this whiskey. I'm a fan of this distillery. There are very few distilleries in Scotland where, in fact, I struggle to think of another distillery in Scotland where everything goes into a sherry cask, right? It's pricey, though. Tamdhu's quickly moving towards luxury product. I know that I'm talking about sherry cask being expensive, small batch being expensive, all of these things, but this is very, very expensive. The batch strength is probably the only one that's still within reach at 78, 80 pounds, something along that order. But if you want to connect to the 15-year-old, it's more expensive than that. The 18-year-old is 150 pounds or something crazy, and it just spirals after that. It's just that, Loy, is why Tamdhu wasn't put forward. My opinion is that it's not for us anymore. There are very few expressions left that we can connect with easily. I'll raise this wee glass and I'll say thanks to the Whiskey Franco for his dram. I forgot to raise a glass earlier. Cheers. Whiskey Franco's in again, saying the Caledonia, it's wonderful. It's very, very good. Very distracting. All the flavours there. Lots of dense, lovely, rich maraschino cherry there. My goodness. Almost like a wee lick of spicy amaretto. Lovely cooked fruits. Rich spice. Ginger. All the thing, you kind of go through all of these things looking for it, and it's all there. The cocoa is there. Long finish. This is intense whiskey. So if you're going to only have 1 or 2 of these on the shelf, this is one to have. And let's face it, the teapot dram isn't in reach anymore either. From a sibling distillery, Glengoyne. And he's saying the Caledonia is generally my favourite whiskey, has held that spot for many a year now. Hard to come across in Colorado, though. It's just because of that super dense experience with that Edradour Caledonia. Barter Hordes is in. Good to see you, Robert. He's saying evening, Roy, and all the barflies. Fantastic to welcome you in, buddy. And Falsgraf is saying, love the Caledonia. 46% would be nice, but not even necessary. Caledonia is 46%. Some other Edradours, like their 10-year-old is lower, 40%. But Caledonia is 46. Malt Musings is saying £60 is too much. 45 fully natural is more reasonable. I think we're goosed, Brian. Honestly speaking, for the most part, we need to look at the future. It's been the more mature whiskies that's been ramping up in price going forward. It really is. The 12-year-olds have been relatively stable. How is that going to, when the cask is becoming more and more valuable all the time, how's that going to maintain? How's that going to stay? There are people treating whiskey as a commodity right now. It's dangerous. It's horrible for us, but it's a dynamic. It's happening. So as the whiskey casks sit in the warehouse and become more and more and more valuable, as they appreciate by the evening, every day they're becoming more valuable. How can we expect them to give us 46% natural whiskey and maintain 35, 40, 45 pounds? I think it's going to be hard. It's going to hurt. It's going to smart until something happens, until there's a crash or a freeze or it's never going to reverse. It's never going to go backwards, let's be honest. So we work together as a community to find where the value is, and there are still lots and lots of things out there at a good price point. But tell me, Brian, where can I find a rich sherry cask experience in a single malt, natural, good ABV for £45? They're very few and far between. They are there. They do exist from time to time. Thank goodness for the occasional independent bottler, for example. But it's becoming a rare thing. I think we're now seeing £50 as the benchmark. I went through the prices of all the whiskies I'm going to share tonight, and that's where they're sitting at. And for sherry cask stuff, it's probably a tenner or more of a premium on top of that. That's where we are today. Buddy, I've got your back. I agree with you. It's too expensive. But who can we fight with? Until there are alternatives out there, we can't. We need to work together to find out where the best value is. And Jaime is saying it was the new Royal Brackla 12. Bacardi had them on offer, bundled with Craigellachie 13 and Altmore 12, roughly £30 each. I got 3 sets. That sounds like an amazing deal. And Gregor is saying, most intrigued with what Mr. Michael Henry at Loch Lomond can do to produce sweeter tasting spirit without a cask's influence to lean on. That's Loch Lomond's whole shtick. Everything about Loch Lomond is dialing as much flavour into the distillate before it even touches a cask. They're not unique, but they are the most prominent at that. That's what they are driving towards. Why rely on cask when investing in your spirit that you're making makes such a difference? And he can demonstrate it. Loch Lomond demonstrate it regularly. Loch Lomond slowly are moving in the right direction. They're getting there. But they've got an entire 12-year-old 46% ABV lineup now, £45 and less, often on offer. And people are engaging with it. People are loving it. It's no mistake that the Loch Lomond have made it into the OSWAs this year. That Douglas Link Splayburn 15 is £55 is your answer. No, it's neither Ben. It's gone. It's just a memory. It's just something that we can say, oh, do you remember that? That was a great bottle, wasn't it? Now, as I've mentioned, indies do keep us honest in these things. I mean, sherry cask, refill sherry cask, funky sherry cask, PX, and they do keep us. But it's not everywhere, and it's not all the time, and it's not to everyone. The Rolex is saying there's a Glenallachie 12 for £46-ish. Absolutely no Rolex. Glenallachie is doing great things with casks, but the Glenallachie 12 is a mix. It's virgin oak. It's using first fill, very, very active PX casks, and some other things in the mix there too, depending on the batch. It's going to be super interesting to see what Glenallachie does going forward. Do you think that Billy Walker's spirit he's going to bring out when that reaches 12 years old, do you think it's going to be priced alongside the other stuff? I know the prices are probably going to rise by the time that happens, but his 4-year-old has just come out at £80. And I know that's a different thing, but it's Billy Walker's spirit. So we're not going to have that around for long. As soon as that changes to being a much better spirit, I guarantee you that, a much better spirit than the legacy that Billy Walker inherited, we're not going to get it for that price anymore. It's a different thing. Anyway, let's move on quickly. While we're on price, why is no one talking about this? It's another brand, another distillery that's moved on to this wonderful natural presentation, 46% ABV. This is the 11-year-old. It was preceded by the 10-year-old. However, now they've switched on us. They've got the Vinaya, is it called? The Vinaya. It's not too expensive, £45-50, but it's not age stated, still fully natural. There are some murmurs and some of the communities talking to me about it and suggesting that I take a look at it. I've never pulled the trigger on it. I've still got a wee bit of this age-stated stuff. It's not for everyone, but I love this. This is a very good whiskey. I think that price and a wee bit of that kind of bling element to it is kind of putting some people off. But I think for most people who just like to have a really nice bottle of whiskey, the things like that might appeal. Its price. This was £60 plus when I bought this, an 11-year-old, a couple of years ago. And that was a similar price to the 10-year-old that I also bought. But Bladnoch is making strides. Bladnoch is changing. Bladnoch is doing different things now. If Bladnoch don't increase their price, other things are going to end up catching up with where they've positioned themselves, and they'll be in a position to capitalize on that because they won't be seen as such an expensive product anymore. What we need is some more transparency from them. I think we need less age stated, because they're 14-year-old. I think that's the youngest age stated that they do is £100. It's very pricey. Mark Horrell is saying he's celebrating being a member of Barflies for 21 months. Thanks for the journey, Roy and fellow Barflies. Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you for your support through the Barflies. Cheers. And finally, before I kind of move on to the more culty ones, of which this is a culty whiskey, is nobody shocked that these guys are not there? If Edradour are the Springbank of the Southern Highlands, this is the Springbank of Speyside. You know, I know it's a bit of a trope now, so many people say that, but I tend to always have one or two or more Benromachs on the shelf, but some of them always leave me a wee bit, what if? Do not get me wrong, this whiskey, this 10-year-old doesn't let me down. That's too strong. This is good whiskey. 43%, I believe this to be natural colour or very close to. It would be nice if they put it in a label. I don't believe they do. Maybe they do, actually, if I think about it now. Apologies if it's there. I don't think it does. Yeah. Anyway, it's a 43% product. There's a 10-year-old age statement on there, but the price right now is fantastic. It's about £35. For a 10-year-old whiskey, that's great. I would pay more. The cask strength Benromachs that I've got up there, the contrast series that they've brought out at 46%, even though they're being playful with those, peat smoke, peat and sherry, Cara Gold, all these kind of different takes on Benromach, they're bringing it out at 46. And the missing component is there in its mouthfeel and its finish. This is great whiskey, super flavoured whiskey. It is much better at higher ABV. Most whiskies are right. Sorry, it's an enthusiast speaking. I know there is. But I think that that's the only thing that's missing from us all banging on about Benromach. It's just a toggle switch. And once it's switched, there's another player in the mix. I think that that's why Benromach hasn't been mentioned. It's going to be interesting to see if it makes it through in the People's Choice. Ryan Sutherland is saying, Benromach is a great distillery, but no one shouts enough about them. The Cara Gold release was very good value. I preferred the peat smoke. The sherry cask peat smoke would be my pick. Cara Gold was interesting. I thought it was a good whiskey. I think if they just brought this at 46%, job done. The job is done. You can relax, Benromach. We're just going to start screaming and shouting about your product now. That's how confident I would be that this, if it was just, I know that maybe this isn't fully aggressively chill filtered. Maybe they're being a bit more delicate with it. We don't know. I don't know what goes on when it comes to chill filtering processes and things, but I really feel strongly that they are so close. And I would pay them more than the £33 I paid for this 10-year-old if it was fully natural too. And believe me, right now, I'm not keen to be giving away money. MM Carson is saying Benromach Germany exclusive 2011 is my absolute favourite. I guarantee you that it's cask strength. Ian Bruce is saying, do you think Benromach may get more freedom with the Cairn distillery opening? I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen there. You could suggest that maybe when the Cairn's released in the years to come, it was 40 and 43%. You just never know. You never know, Ian. Anyway, here's another couple of two wee under-the-radar culty whiskies that I think I'm still a wee bit surprised didn't get talked about a wee bit. We know why Glenfarclas doesn't get talked about much, because it's a very old-school way of presenting whiskey, and I'm not just talking about the aesthetic. Most of the Glenfarclas bottles come out there, most of the core range. I know that there's lots of higher ABV releases and special releases and pricier releases, let's be honest, but the standard core range is just a bit bland. Same label. I don't mind that it still looks like this. I actually find it quite appealing. I quite like the look of Glenfarclas. But even although this one is 46% ABV, this is the 15-year-old, it's the only one of the standard, or let's say lower ABV releases that is 46% ABV. They don't tell us that they've actually taken the decision to put it at 46% ABV so that they don't need to chill filter it. They don't talk about colour, and I know that but this is just, they've done this at 46 for a reason, maybe because it's their 15-year-old. But if you go to their 21-year-old, if you go to their 25-year-old, it's 43%. Something makes them do something different with this one. I don't understand fully why. Their 12-year-old or 10-year-old, etc., 43%, depending on where you are. I think that's a wee shame. Treat it naturally. Don't change the price. Don't reduce the price. Don't bump the price. Treat it naturally. Bring it to us. You're already giving us at 46% ABV, and we've got another player in the mix. I don't even care that Glenfarclas is as batch variable as that it is. Look at how many single malt is a batch made product. Look at all the distilleries out there that celebrate that. Some of them don't have deep stocks, so they just go with a batch variation. Glenfarclas arguably have one of the deepest stocks out there, so you could argue that they should see more consistency. But c'est la vie, that is what it is. If they brought it to us natural and told us, I think we'd be talking about it much more. And here's another one, Ben Nevis. This is an older bottle. It's rebranded. It looks a bit different from this now. This is a 10-year-old. 46% ABV. This is a fully natural product. I hope it tells me on the label. I'm not even sure. I'm pretty certain it does on the new one. But I think the reason that nobody's talking about this peach of a whiskey, this is the Springbank of the Western Highlands. I jest. But the reason nobody's talking about this is one of availability. There's a chatter goes round when it appears online, when it appears on the shelves, when it gets into shops, when it's in stock. Hey, Ben Nevis 10 is back in stock. People run out and grab some. So we've got availability, we've got price, and we've got things that are just almost there. And I'm over an hour in. I want all the Springbanks of all the regions, says Don McCausland. Me too, buddy. Me too. I'm very fortunate I've got Springbanks here. They're open. I'm drinking them. I'm being a wee bit careful because I know how difficult they're going to be to replace. I've got them here. When they run out, I know that I'm going to struggle. I know that I'm going to miss them. And I think that's a wee shame. However, there has been times recently that I've been in a shop, Good Spirits Company in Glasgow, they were sitting on the shelf at the Spa in Islay. When I was on Islay this year, there was Springbank 10 sitting on the shelf there. When the timing's right, it can still fall for you, depending on where you are and what time it is. So I hope, buddy, that you get your hands on some Springbanks, Don. Sandro is saying, so how many Springbanks are there? No. Well, I mean, I think I'm talking about if you were just to pick one from the region is that's the kind of most Springbankian vibe and feel. Jimmy Legs bought me a huge Dram to say, Loch Lomond 10-year-old. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Let's strap in. I'm a wee bit nervous. Loch Lomond 10-year-old, selected by some guy named Roy, neck pour, into a few drops of water, nose, shy at first, grapefruit rhubarb pie, which doesn't exist as far as I know. Old Encyclopedia Britannica that has been kept in a damp basement. Okay, Jimmy, you're going to tease it out. That's fine. That's the way you should be enjoying that whiskey, as long as you love it. Thank you for the super generous Dram, Jimmy Leg. Cheers. I'm going to use that to buy Peter Legg a very nice Dram. Hazelburn is saying, obviously need to get in the Spa more often when we're on Islay. Yeah, you've been in the Spa, right? You've seen all the whiskies that we've got there in that shop. It's amazing. I am a wee bit shocked that there are no kind of Pernod Ricard outside of Irish distillers. There's not really much in the way of Diageo outside of Johnnie Walker Green Label either. There's just not a lot from our biggest producers. It's frustrating, it really is. But it is a wee bit frustrating when there is one that's valid from Pernod Ricard, and I think that I'm talking about that idea that when producers take that step to give us what we've been asking for, we need to capitalise on it. We need to try and help them make it a success. And I don't mean that you buy lots of it and fill your shelves and buy and give gifts and things, but genuinely buy it, engage with it. And if you do enjoy it and think it's a step in the right direction, talk about it and talk about it openly. and enjoy it, because it's not going to always be there if it fails. So I'm looking at this one. This is a Glenlivet 12. This is a licensed dram, which is the second one that came out in this series. The first one was the illicit still. Both of these Glenlivet 12s were not Glenlivet 12s. They were 12-year-old malt whiskey from Glenlivet, and it ends there. So don't compare this to the Glenlivet 12. The Glenlivet 12 in the UK is a 40% product. It's inexpensive, it's inoffensive, but it's dull. If you're a whiskey enthusiast, let's be honest, we can enjoy it occasionally, but it's dull. And sometimes dull has been kind to it. It's been not great either. Trying to keep it positive tonight, but this is not that. This is communicative and alive and flavourful and fruity and much, much, much better. 48% ABV. I don't know if it's non-chill filtered. I'll assume that it is non-chill filtered at that ABV. I don't know if it's natural colour because it doesn't tell me in the label. On the illicit still that preceded this licensed dram, they did at least tell us that it was non-chill filtered. Why the step back? Why the lack of transparency? There's that theme again. It's transparency. I think that's the only thing that's held back this one. Pierre is saying, as I came up with, if you want, you can use the Duff Stuff as a name of your bottles. Duff Stuff. You know that years ago, my brother and I were making a list of Duff Stuff. I think it might have just been me, and I ended up putting out an Instagram post and things like that. But I'm not sure that Duff Stuff would make a particularly good brand name, Frank. Maybe it doesn't need to be a good brand name when it's only a single cask once or twice a year at best, right? And Whiskey with Molly's saying, time for a dram. I think it wants a Jimmy Leg approved emoji. What we got here? Jimmy Leg again. Mouth. Wow. Thick and bright at the same time. The opposite of creamy. An odd combo. For me, it's brittle. It's fizzy. It's alive. Tom Yum. Spicy Vietnamese soup. Plums right off the tree. Lemonade with extra zest. There you're getting the fizz. Amazing for a neck pour. Brought a tear to my eye. Bring a tear to mine. That's fantastic. And the story about how you got that too, Jimmy, is just tremendous. Suddenly there's a post on the Barflies group just gushing at Peter Lee because Jimmy Legg has suddenly got a bottle of that Loch Lomond in his hands. You never thought you'd see the day. That's amazing. And it's amazing how much you're enjoying it, because I know you've just been hearing about it all that time. And Ian Bruce is saying it's nae rough as it's a duff. Aye, no bad. Let's get into the stuff now that I am genuinely sad. 4 bottles that didn't make some sort of a mention. Where is Tomatin? Where are they? Not the entire range is natural, not the entire range points as enthusiasts, but they bring good liquid regularly. 14-year-old Portwood is 46% plus. Everything upwards of that is 46% and more. That liquid is getting better and better and better all the time, and I'm as guilty as anyone. We don't seem to talk about it too much. I've enjoyed my time with these recently as well. These are non-age statement, these Kuboken series. This is the Shochu release, one of their... This isn't the signature. It's one of the... I can't remember what the series is called, but they're playing with this a little bit. So this is matured in European virgin oak and Japanese shochu. This one, 46% ABV. The labels on these are absolutely tiny. So trying to read them, especially that one on the back, it's just so... There's a label there, believe it or not. So difficult to read, but it's down to the design of the bottle. It's a very pretty bottle. It gets a lot of compliments when people see this bottle, how attractive it is. Ho-hum, right? Because it's about the liquid inside. It's getting better. They've chosen to bring this out natural, or 46% unchill filtered. I think it's odd that more people aren't speaking about it, because I think it's good and interesting whiskey, and I think I would like to see it spoken about a wee bit more. I might choose to feature this whiskey in an upcoming Ignored or something like that type release. What about Craig Ellichie? How did Craig Ellichie not make it? How can this not be in the OSWAs for the second year running? I don't think it was there last year either. Certainly in 2022, it's not there. Craigellachie 13. I almost don't talk about it because it's obvious. It's one of these obvious whiskies. It's just such, but I should be talking about it more. This is Dewar's, Bacardi Dewar's, but they've brought out something and given us it fully natural, and they've done it with a malt that is resplendent when it's natural. And if it's not natural, all of the greatest things about this malt wouldn't exist. That wonderfully, almost kind of, sometimes this 13-year-old is quite light in the realms of Craigellachie, but it catches you off guard. There's an almost meaty note to it. There's a weight to it. There's an impact that comes from this that makes you realize that not all Speysiders are alike. And it's great value and everywhere. Everybody can pick up Craigellachie 13. This, I'm amazed, didn't make it through to this year's OSWAs. That's probably the biggest one so far. And the other one made it through as a single individual bottle. But when an entire distillery, except for a few kind of entry levels, kind of supermarket, large output type things, when the almost entire distillery has turned around and said, let's do this natural. Yeah, but the 15-year-old, if we only bring that from ex-bourbon cask, it's going to be super pale. It'll be like white wine after 15 years old. Yeah, let's do it anyway. That's the type of things that we need to be celebrating. We talk about that Glen Scotia that we opened the night with. Look at the colour of this 15-year-old malt whiskey. And look at the colour of that Glen Scotia. It's almost the same. Oops, excuse me for the mic there. I need some white behind this. Let's try. This is not going to work. I'm going to drop these if I'm not careful. That is the colour of whiskey. That's the colour of whiskey. Because modern whiskey doesn't have European oak to rely on anymore. We don't have transport casks. We don't have a plethora of sherry casks. The scale of it is huge now. But also we don't have that happening anymore. Spain can't bulk export sherry. It just doesn't happen anymore. So the transport casks are gone. We can't rejuvenate them with Paxaret anymore. That's gone. That's been decades ago. That was no longer permitted, which is why we've come to rely on colorant, E150A, so much. These things have been taken away. So in the modern context, this is the colour of whiskey. That's the colour of it, more often than not. It's gorgeous. Let's celebrate the distilleries that bring us that natural colour. Why? Because let me tell you, I'm going to pour a wee bit of this. 15-year-old Glencadam 46% ABV, right on the back of a very bold, very bright, big, shouty sherry cask at cask strength. When you know its natural colour, discussing the colour of the whiskey is part of the pleasure. If you don't know its natural colour, it's a waste of breath because it's designed, it's to order, it's to whatever the customer demanded, it's whatever the projected market might have desired, what their expectation is. But if you know its natural colour and it says on the label, you can discuss colour, you can appreciate colour, and it becomes part of the whiskey appreciation. If it's fake, it's redundant. That's just a small reason for things being natural in malt whiskey. So fresh, so bright, so alive, so clean. There's even, just takes me into just a cool dunnage. I'm outdoors, fields, harvests, hay, malt, barley, crisp apples, fresh apples, sweet apples. creamy, creamy. That mouthfeel is there because it's not chill filtered. Now, that mouthfeel might be there if they chill filter it. It might still manage to survive it, and it could still be creamy. But we know that it's non-chill filtered because it tells us in the label, so we can actually enjoy the mouthfeel and be grateful for the fact that it's not. Ian, Whisky and that. Ian, so good to see you. Ian is now working over at Glasgow Distillery now, aren't you? Evening, Barflies. A bit late to the show tonight. Ian, you're never late for the VPub, buddy. It's good to see you. And I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying the job. Ian Bruce is saying, should we sell good natural whiskey as more of a brass rather than the usual copper colour advertised? We should just put natural on the label. And when people say, oh, that's very pale, it's pale because this comes from an ex-bourbon cask. It's the most popular cask used in the whiskey industry now, and serendipity has ensured and guaranteed that it's one of the most amazing relationships that exists in the spirits world. Malt spirit matured in a bourbon cask is magical. It gives much less colour than these casks, that cask, the next cask. But what it does give you is bright, fresh fruits, clean, creamy, malty flavours, and a completely unique experience. A few seconds of an exchange. This is like, consider white wine and red wine. Consider 100 other concepts. It's not difficult to understand. But when the industry has spent years telling everyone that this is the colour of whiskey, I think it's hard to step back out of that when the market expectation is such. A market expectation born mostly out of, in 2022, not knowing any better. In fact, there maybe is your answer to the earlier question, Glencadam, Reserva, Andalucia. That's exactly what that's designed for, Ben, to go into that slot. Andalucia Reserva, it's not matured in sherry, I think it's a finish. But it's an unaged statement from Glencadam, still 46% ABV. Believe that's the creation of Ian Forteith. And it is because probably he saw that gap there and he placed it exactly in that gap. I've got a bottle up there gifted to me, I think, if my memory serves me well, by Stefan Novak. But nice call, Ben. Absolutely, I agree. Okay, only a couple left to share with you. And here, before I kind of bring this round to, there will be a quiz at the end tonight. I think it's quite a tricky quiz at the end tonight. First 5 are dead easy. I think the second 5 is, yeah, might get a bit tricky. But interesting, and I hope it's fun. But before we get to there, I'm going to round it out. There's 2 here that are absolutely deserving. Pretty bottle. This is the one that everybody's going to soak their big inhales and take a breath here, right? Okay, I'm holding up a Japanese Yoichi non-age statement, Japanese single malt at 45% ABV. Roy, what are you talking about? Your whole VPub tonight has been about transparency, transparency, transparency. You're holding up one of the most opaque whiskies. Well, let me tell you, and I've made this point before, and I think that people are going to pick this up. This is now £80, £70, between £70 and £80 of that order for this non-age statement Japanese whiskey. I have done this multiple times now. I've gone on to Royal Mail Whiskies this week and bought a replacement bottle for this and a gift bottle because of how much I'm enjoying and tearing through this whiskey. When our Islay whiskies are now at the point I cannot even keep up with Lagavulin and their prices now. It's disgusting to me. I don't want to hear it. The Jazz Festival releases that just came out, I ended up incidentally hearing what the prices were, and they were just as sickening as I expected. Sickening. So they're gone. They're gone. They've not just caught up with the stupidity of some of the Japanese releases, but they've way outstripped them. If I want a peated, balanced, lovely little smoky malt whiskey, I am struggling to find something from Scotland in my collection that can compete with this. Now, of course, it's me. I'm not looking for a big punch in the face, Pete. Most of the time I'm looking for just a balanced puff of smoke. I want something that's warm and mellow and just delightful and balanced. This just does it easily. And I look where else I can find, and in the mainland, I have much better success in mainland, absolutely. You could argue that Leadchick is still bringing it, and absolutely I would agree with you. But Leadchick is a powerful proposition, very flavourful, very characterful. This is just so clean, so you could argue that it's simple and it's not complex, but I would suggest no, spend a bit of time with it, and it is. You unlock things through patience with this. This should have been in the world whisky section. It's currently dominated by Irish whiskies. Irish whiskies are also suffering from the same ridiculous price chasing. And this, it's not in a new distillery, it's not in world distillery, it's nowhere, and it should be. This is up there with Ardnamurchan when it comes to quality, flavour, and engagement from a new distillery. This is White Peak Wireworks. This is the small batch. This is available. You can buy this now. This isn't unobtainium. You can go and buy this stuff now. It's £60 for young whiskey. That's pricey. Right up until you sip it. You can see this is my second bottle. Tearing through this one as well. Love pouring it for people. Love watching them enjoy it. And then I tell them that it's a 3-year-old English malt. This is 46.2% ABV. It's using bourbon casks and STR. That's shaved, toasted, and recharred. It's the type of cask that they do use to bring on young whiskey, but it's not about the cask. It's how the cask is used, and in this case, it's used very, very well. Really surprised to see that that's not had a mentioned. Why are people not talking about what a good job that they're doing? Lots of new distilleries all across Europe are doing similar things. What about Anoc's peated range? Andrew, I think that's a good call. I think it's a very good call. Most of them are non-age statement, aren't they? And I think right now that what is it? They've ditched all the kind of variants there, and they've now got one just called Peat Heart, I think. There's a single core range, and it's been a wee while since I've tried it. Andrew, I'm going to make a wee note. Anoc is one of my favourites. I love the distillery. And if they're doing peated whiskies, and Isla's getting more and more out of reach, we need to look at it. Thanks for the call. We're going to finish on a peated one as well. Oops, I've just lost that. I caught an orange. I think I picked it up though, right? Grabbed a dram of Yuyichi at a whiskey bar the other night, and you are correct. It's delicious stuff. First time trying it, and we'll be tracking a bottle down. I'm so glad that you picked it up, Whiskey Franco. I'm so glad that you connected with it, and I'm so glad that you agree. Don't let me force you. Please be objective. Does this suit me? I know that Roy likes it, but it doesn't suit me. And Aquavite is saying, what does it Jimmy Legacy and Aquavite, what does it compare to? Very little. It's hard to say like mature Isla because it doesn't, there's a depth, there's a maturity, you can taste the age on a mature Isla. Whereas on that Yuichi, it's still a young spirit, but it does a very good job of making you believe it's older than it actually is. I don't know how old it is. This is the transparency issue, right? But we need to be careful we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So when it comes to just talking about, it's non-age statement, it's these things, and if you pick up that glass and every time after time, you find it compelling for reasons that are often different, it's time to say, okay, maybe it's time to look at this again. Maybe it's time to pick this up once more. I'm going to finish off with one that I'm sure that you guys have been screaming about. Now, I started off with the Glen Moray to see that it's popular with you guys, but it doesn't sit with me. This is another one of these. This is probably going to sit here a long time unless somebody comes along who really loves it. I do enjoy this whiskey like the Glen Moray. I do enjoy it. I can respect this whiskey. I can even get behind it. I can recommend it. I can support it. But I tend to not reach for it as much. This is a bloody good whiskey though. And it's Port Charlotte. Now, Brooklady has made it into the OSWAs, of course, but I was a wee bit surprised, and I know a lot of you guys were. This is actually a dusty bottle. I don't know if you can see if I can let you see the dust on the top. Maybe it doesn't come across on the camera there, but there's dust on the top of this bottle. Not many of my bottles, especially at the front of the aisle shelf there, manage to gather dust. This one is dusty. It's good whiskey. Let's pour it. Let's have a wee pour before we get into the quiz. And I've got a wee drop of my Tamdhu. I've got a wee drop of my Glencairn 15. And now I've got a wee drop of Port Charlotte 10. Ooh, okay. So a lot of things are hitting me at once. Okay, so kind of vanilla custard creams, but imagine that obviously they're very smoky vanilla custard creams. And there's a grassy element, but it's more of a kind of wet grass. It's like it's not fresh grass or cut grass. It's a mulchy thing. It's like wet hay. Let's go with that. As wet hay is a good one. The fruit here is like ripe melon, ripe plum. But it is fruity. It's fruitier than I remember. And I'm looking for the thing that I usually get from it. It's not here on the nose. Super smoky. The drams that I've been sipping tonight have just set me up for a smoky dram nicely. Okay, let's see Port Charlotte. Okay, a big, thick mouthfeel, a big hit. Spice, white pepper spice. A little bit of chili, 50% ABV doing its thing here, bringing that texture, but bringing that arrival, bringing that spice. Creamy too, sweet, fruity, more of that kind of melon vibe is here. Syrupy, vanilla, lots of vanillas. Getting that custard thing I was getting at the start on the nose is coming through on the palate. We're getting a kind of vanilla custard thing happening. Longer finish than I remember. And I'm not getting any, maybe this open bottle has helped it. What I was looking for was something that occasionally verges on a wee bit of a silage note. But it's just like a damp hayloft. I'm a wee bit lost for words. That's very good. It's very good tonight. It's very good. 50% ABV. Listen, when our Lagavulin 12s are out of our reach, and we've got a Port Charlotte bringing 50% ABV, 10 years old, at £50 thereabouts. I think the PC10 is £50. Aye, it's a £50 whiskey. I hear you. I hear why you like this. I hear why you love this whiskey. Nice. Very nice. My goodness. It's happening in real time. I hope it's happening for you as well. I hope that you pick things up that you've dismissed and thinking there is. I mean, it's always been an objectively good whiskey for me, but to actually have that a wee experience from that wee sip tonight, that's tremendous. So you're right. PC10 perhaps should have been in the OSWAs. Okay. Ian Bruce is saying like grass still in a pair of fit boots or golf shoes if left. Aye, that's a good one actually, because it's not as off-putting as perhaps a silage note, but exactly that kind of feeling. Exactly that. And Jaime, not Jamie, saying, I'll just call you Jaime, sorry. Kilhoman, would have loved to have seen Loch Gorm. Absolutely, Kilhoman. I was expecting you guys to talk about that. You would have loved to have seen Loch Gorm in the lineup. You're not alone in that. A lot of people are wondering why Kilhoman hasn't featured this time around. Raphael Nardi, good to see you, Raphael. He's bought me a wee dram as well. He's not mentioned, there's no comment or anything, Raphael. But buddy, it's always wonderful to welcome you in. I hope you're keeping very well. It's great to welcome you in the VPub. How are we for time? 1:39, 1:40. Terrific stuff. I think we might finish at a tidy time tonight, just over the 2 hours mark. But we will finish on a quiz at the end, of course we will. And he's saying, Jaime is saying, would have loved to see Loch Lomond. I think Aquavite just had a Ben from SMWS oh man moment with that PC at Port Charlotte. I did. I have to be honest, Whiskey Franco, I did. And Whiskey Novice Jim is saying, okay, just poured a PC10. I'm now getting burger van. Not a bad thing. I like a good burger van. So I'm not getting the meaty side of a burger van. But what I might give you is the kind of sauces but for me tonight, Jim, it's just fresh. It's a field. It's a grassy thing. It's not nearly as funky and silagey as I remember that grass being. Creamy vanilla tonight for me, Jim. Smoked creamy vanilla. Let's look for Jim's burger van. I do enjoy a burger van myself, Jim. You made me hungry now. Fitba boots, says Ian Bruce. Sorry about the autocorrect. Fitba, so it was just like fit boots, was it? Fitba boots. Fitba is spelled Football. Sorry, Ian. And Whiskey obviously saying, yes, sauce and field. You're on it. So it's sauces. So it's the kind of the savoury, maybe that sharpness, the vinegary. It's not vinegary, but I'm looking for burgers, Jim. Benny Fries is saying maybe you haven't tried Northern Irish burger vans. That's right. I think I've got a pretty good idea that the Northern Irish burger vans would be very, very similar to Glaswegian and Scottish burger vans. Anyway, fantastic. That's kind of, I went through everything and I was starting to cross them off. And I said, no, if I'm not reviewing these, if I just go through these, I can talk about and I can get those themes of transparency, of switching to natural presentation, recognizing that it's batch made malt whiskey. So not trying to force it into being this continual, consistent product. Okay, it doesn't need to be like that. If you've got a massive distillery making lots and lots of consistent product, and maybe you can get enough depths of stocks in order to bring out a really consistent product from malt, fantastic. But that's not what we're after in malt these days. That's not what anyone's after. Same. Those days are gone. We're after new experiences and switching things up and flavour, and those days have changed. The days of a blend where you would drain it and finish it and replace it with the exact same blend and say, I am a Bells man, or no, I'm a Grouse woman, or that's not now, and it's not the future of whiskey, I don't think. The future of whiskey is much, much more knowledgeable, and I think people need to learn that this is the colour of whiskey. This is the colour of whiskey today, for the most part. When we get whiskies like this, well, there's a story to tell. There's a reason that it's like that, and it's super interesting, and it doesn't taste anything like it. When all whiskies are this colour, whiskey's a dull sport. This is the colour of whiskey. Anyway, I hope that you will stay for the quiz at the end. I think it's a good one. You might enjoy it. I have been a wee bit horrible in one or two, but generally speaking, I think it's quite attainable and easy. Sandra is saying, have the SWA ever discussed making age statements mandatory? That would be real transparency. So I don't want to campaign for mandatory age statements, but I would love to campaign for mandatory transparency, or let's say a permissible transparency. So let's imagine you have a vatting of a 6-year-old, 8-year-old, 12-year-old, and 15-year-old whiskey, right? And the regulations, and I think it's right that you should really put the youngest age statement on there if you're going declare it as a single age statement. So it's a 6-year-old product, even though there's much, much older product in there. And in some extreme cases, the majority is older, and there's only some younger whiskey in there for vibrancy or for some part of the blending mix, the product proposition, whatever it may be. But what's wrong with telling people that that's the case on the label? Because that's not allowed right now. It's not permitted. I have yet to hear, I've heard all the excuses, I've yet to hear a good reason for that not to be the case. So I would like, I don't need age statements these days. I don't need age statements. But I would love transparency. Dave Swift from New Zealand. VPubs are so much more fun of an evening. And oh my goodness, you're here, aren't you, Dave? I actually picked up a package from you that arrived today. New Zealand whiskies that you've shipped from the UK to me, 3 wee samples, which is fantastic, Dave. Thank you so much, and thank you for your support over the years as well. It's wonderful to have you in the UK. It's a bit of a shame that I am going to be disappearing on you and nipping over to the water to Arran. Enjoy Arran, Roy. I'm off to indulge in all things Campbelltown and Islay. Listen, if anybody bumps into Dave Swift while he's up here, please make sure he's having a good time while he's in Scotland. Dave, it's wonderful to welcome you here. I hope you're a happy man, and thank you for the dram and the samples. Oh, that wee Port Charlotte, that's really nice. One of our funniest moments on Islay was a punter standing in front of an amazing array of single malts, says Helen, and asking, do you sell bells? Nope. A 10-year-old Jura then, each to their own. So that's the thing, that there's still fabulous amounts of people out there enjoying bells. That's valid. That's their drink. I am not saying that that is a bad thing and bells should be banished. I just don't think that malt whiskey should be sold in the same way that they're selling bells or any blended whiskey. It's a different product. The majority of what's in that bottle of bells goes through a continuous still 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not made from 100% malted barley. It's a different drink. Malt whiskey is different. David Hong is saying you were right with mandatory. Whiskey Hog, sorry, is saying you were right with mandatory. Transparency should be permissible. Oh no, he's correcting me in saying transparency should be mandatory. Yeah. Listen, you don't want to force anybody if they want to run a business a certain way. But when you restrict them from being transparent, I think that's a problem. If they don't want to be transparent, fine, go off. Do what they want to do. We'll talk about the ones that are transparent, and it's frustrating when they're not allowed to be. Let's see how this wee light Glencadam goes after this. That super punchy Port Charlotte 10. Oh my goodness, just a blast of dunnage. Fantastic. 15-year-old whiskey. It's in the sweet spot though, right? Never had dunnage from this before in my memory, but it's happened twice tonight. Just like standing in a cool, damp warehouse. Very appley, crisp, fresh, sweet apples. Malty, delicate, only the way only Scotch can be, unique to Scotch. This age, this kind of spirit forward, even after 15 years, it can only be Scotch, right? Very few other countries have that mature product. Still so much spirit in the mix, but not spirity, just clean and balanced and honest. And Moorish as well. That's the kind of whiskey you just sit and spoil yourself with. Clean whiskey. Difficult to put that in front of somebody coming into whiskey who's new, if I'm honest, who's somebody who's looking for flavour hooks and definition. This is subtlety in a glass. And then we'll go back to our bold Tamdhu batch strength. Very autumnal, very Christmassy. Very good, honestly, very good. It's 75, 80 quid. There's still a Tamdhu out there that we can connect with, but the rest of the range is gone. That's a cracker of a whiskey. Mark is celebrating being a member for 25 months. Cheers all. We'll have to catch up on replay. Mark, it's wonderful for you to drop in, and thanks for supporting us a barfly for the last over 2 years. Let's get the quiz on the go. You know what the deal is here. You're only playing against yourself. It's multiple choice. It always is. If you've never played the quiz, please stay. Please enjoy it. It's good fun. You don't need to announce it. Just make a wee note at home and try and get see how close you can get to 10. It's deliberately meant to be difficult to do that. Of course it is. And the people that do get 10 out of 10, it's a real thing. I imagine them celebrating when they do get it. It was wonderful last week, but you might remember last week, I myself was participating in a Menno quiz, structured in a very, very similar way, and I only scored 6 out of 10. So there's no shame in it. The pass mark is 5. If you don't make the pass mark, it's fine. You're only playing against yourself. Let's bring this in. Good luck, everybody. Yeah, I wonder how it would work like that. Not very well. I think it's better. It's better like that, isn't it? Yeah, look at that. I've still got the OSWA background going on there. Let's ditch the OSWA. We're not doing the OSWAs tonight, although it was an OSWA theme. Good luck, everyone. Let's roll straight into question 1. Hopefully the first 5 are going to be quite easy for you. Which of these made it into the 2021 OSWA nominations, but not in 2022? So it was there last year, but it's remarkably missing this year. Which of these was there last year? A. Bunnahabhain 12-year-old, B. Douglas Laing Scallywag, or C. Wild Turkey 101? I say this is easy, but I think that might hurt my head a little bit if I wasn't sure, if I wasn't up to speed with the OSWAs and the nominations and things. When I'm putting these together, what I've worked out with the quiz, it's very easy to do hard questions. That's easy to make 10 hard questions. It's difficult to make an easy question that's still interesting. Now, I was worried that this was going to be trickier than I thought, but look at you guys kicking it out of the park. You know exactly what's happening in the OSWAs, and you can tell me exactly that Scallywag was there last year, but it didn't make it in 2022. Instead, this year it's been replaced by its sibling, the Timorous Beastie, has been put forward in the blended malt category. Well done, everybody, for a 1 out of 1. 2, Glen Scotia have just released, I suppose I shouldn't have spoken so much about this earlier, but here you go, it is the easy part of the quiz. Glen Scotia have just released an all-natural double cask finished in rum cask. What is the original double cask finished in? A. Oloroso, B. Pedro Jimenez, C. French wine barriques. What's it going to be? The regular double cask that I held up earlier on, actually, and I showed you. Here it is here. Is that finished in French wine barriques? C. Going backwards now. B. Pedro Jimenez, or A for Oloroso? Ethan Sterner is saying, what's it going to be? See what you did there, Ethan. Nice one. I love saying barriques, says Molasses. Barriques. Bricks. Of course, I mentioned it earlier that the regular double cask, the new one, the natural coloured one, is out. That's rum casks. And the original double cask was Pedro Jimenez. Interestingly, I had completely deleted that from my memory. I had to be reminded that that was the case earlier this week. Question 3. Which stage of the malt whisky production process produces draff as a byproduct? Where is draff produced? A. Malting, B. Mashing, or C. Fermentation? Might get some eye rolling at this, Roy, it's so obvious, but interestingly, some people don't think about production in the same way. Martin Jones is saying, anyone tried the rum cask yet? Yes, I've tried it, Martin. I got it at a good price. I got it at £45, which is a bit cheaper than most retailers have it right now at the Good Spirits Company in Glasgow. And I got a teeny wee discount off that, as being a member of the Glasgow Whisky Club. I bought both of these from the Good Spirits Company this week at that price. Both of them are open. I also bought a backup bottle from Royal Mail Whiskies that's come through as well. So I think that's a good endorsement for you, buddy. I hope you go out and try it. I think you might enjoy it. I think it's important that we embrace the stuff that we can enjoy and appreciate as being fully natural. But of course, draff is produced as part of the mashing process. After mashing, draff is very often sent off as cattle feeder to be repurposed into cattle feed. Martin Jones is saying he loves Glen Scotia. Good stuff, Martin. Question 4. Which of these connects Balvenie, Glenlivet, and Glengarry? What connects Balvenie, Glenlivet, and Glengarry? Is it A, they've all released a Founder's Reserve? B, they've all at least one direct-fired still? Or C, they've all been managed by Dennis Malcolm? Balvenie, Glenlivet, and Glengarry. Which of these ties those together? They all have released a Founder's Reserve, they've all got a direct fire still, or they've all been managed by Dennis Malcolm. This is trickier. Peter Lee saying, got to feed the coos. You're right, buddy, you've got to feed the coos. It's kind of funny the amount of tours that you go on where they talk about happy coos and drunk coos and things like that, where of course all that they've done after the mashing process to make that draff is just to extract starches and sugars and make wort, basically. There's no fermentation happened yet. There's no alcohol in that point yet. So the coos are happy, but it's not because they're drinking booze. It's because they're drinking, or they're eating draff. I can tell you that they've all released a Founder's Reserve. Balvenie Founder's Reserve was a 10-year-old. It's long since gone, of course. Glengarry's Founder's Reserve is a non-age statement entry level. It's still available. And of course, we know Glenlivet Founder's Reserve is the same. So there you go. Direct fire still does actually exist in Glengarry. They have this year instated direct fired wash still. Very interesting. And Dennis Malcolm's been pretty much all over the place. He's been at a lot of the Pernod Ricard distilleries, etc. But he's not worked at all 3 of those. I don't think he's ever worked for Grant's, actually, despite him working for Glen Grant now. So there you go. If you answered A, give yourself a point as we go into the picture question. Here's a rather kind of tired looking picture here. I don't know when this picture was taken, but it's a Graham Fraser picture that he sent in to me. I'm just asking what distillery we're looking at here. It needs a wee bit of a TLC, a bit of a lick of paint. Is it A, Bamore, B, Auchentoshan, or C, Glengarry? What distillery are we looking at there? Ethan Sterner is saying Springbank has a direct fired still, according to Ralphie. Absolutely, yes. Glenfarclas still does. I believe Glenfarclas too. Once upon a time, the guys up in Dornoch were direct firing. I don't think they still are now, but they were at one point. But what picture are we looking at here? Are we looking at Bamore, Auchentoshan, or Glengarry? I can tell you that a lot of you have got this absolutely right. We're clearly looking at Auchentoshan, just out to the west of Glasgow in the lowlands, but a wee bit of a tired looking image there. Auchentoshan, Beam Suntory. Question 6. Things are going to start to get a wee bit tricky. So Andrew Peers, Whiskey with Molly, excess to Scotch. MJ Roden, Peter Box, George O'Brien, Andrew Butler, Daniel Caballero, so many of you with 5 out of 5. Things might get tricky now. After supporting the Isla Jazz Festival for 24 years, Lagavulin did what in 2022? They A, finished the 2022 Jazz Festival release in Virgin Oak, or B, they announced its final year of support, or C, they released not 1 but 2 releases. What did Lagavulin do in 2022? 24 years they've been supporting the Jazz Festival in Isla, but they either A, finished the 2022 Jazz release in Virgin Oak, or B, they announced their final year of support for the festival, or C, released not 1 but 2 releases. It's just too easy for you. You all know what's happening. You've got your finger on the pulse, or you've maybe been listening earlier on in the vPub. I think it's the former, but you're spot on. They released not 1 but 2 releases. Now, I was excited. you know, that little butterfly of excitement you get because they put out a 14-year-old Lagavulin and a 7-year-old Lagavulin. Now, this is quite amazing because that means that we've now got a 7-year-old Lagavulin, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old. I don't know of a 13-year-old, but there probably has been one, and a 14. I mean, it's quite, for the completists, it's starting to get exciting. And then I saw that for the 7-year-old Lagavulin, okay, it's at cask strength, but they wanted £90. The 14-year-old, strap in, 220. Off you go. Another one that it's not for me. But there you go. Yes, for 2022, they actually released 2 different ones. One to be widely distributed in the 7-year-old and one to be sold at the distillery for visitors. Question 7. When Arran opened in 1995, how many years had passed since a new malt distillery had previously been opened in Scotland? Was it A, less than 10 years, B, around 20 years, or C, more than 25 years? Andrew Butler is asking to be pardoned for his swearing. Andrew, do not worry about it at all. I don't mind swearing. The only thing that makes me uncomfortable is personal attacks, rudeness, that kind of thing, and that never happens in the VPub. It's all fabulous. So if you want to let yourself, especially in the quiz, Andrew, have a wee swear, it's absolutely fine. But when Arran opened in 1995, how many years had passed since a new malt distillery had previously been opened in Scotland? Was it less than 10 years, around 20 years, or more than 25 years? Okay. Yeah, don't be effing mean. That's right. Don't ever be mean, Ethan. That's exactly my point. I can tell you that I think some of you are going to be surprised by this. There's a banana skin there, so it did require a wee bit of thought, reading and processing the question, but it's less than 10 years. Caninvie and Speyside were both opened in 1990, which was only 5 years before 1995, so it was less than 10 years as the answer there. Going beyond that, of course, it starts to get into the 70s. Altavania was 1975. Another one was 1975. I'm trying to remember, was that? I've lost which one it is now. But a lot of people still celebrating 7 out of 7. My goodness, what an amount of you. Benny Freeze, Whiskey with E. That looks like a new name, Whiskey with E. Nice to have you in. Snapper XV, good to see Snapper XV. It's been a wee while, or it's just that I've not caught you. But you're on 7 out of 7. Hell's Wood is a 7 out of 7 as well. Eric on a 6. MJ Roden, Andrew Pearce, Ian Bruce, Dogs Have No Uncles, Colin, Papa Q, that's Rob, Andrew Butler, and Barter Hordes Robert, all on 7 out of 7. Of course, some of you are surprised that you're scoring. Question 8. What is the correct brand spelling for Ardbeg's favourite core high-strength sherry cask release? How do you spell it? Is it A, Ugadal, B, Ugadal, or C, Ugadal? You have to look at the spelling. Oh my goodness, there should be an asshat emoji here, shouldn't there? There should be an asshat emoji, especially if it was me taking this quiz. I do suffer from dyslexia type things at times. I don't have dyslexia, but spelling can fox me. And this is one of the absolute worst. Sugar Kitty's got it spot on. It's spelled O-O-G-I-E, Oogie. Terrific stuff. Most of you have managed to snag this. Absolutely spot on. A Ugadal. And for those listening, it's Uigeadal. So if you were screaming that, absolutely give yourself a point. Captain Bamis is saying a Wiggy doll. A Wiggy doll, yeah. Ugadal, Wiggy doll. Second from last question. Question 9. Which of these distilleries, according to the Spirits Business will often put out annual rankings for whiskey, which is why I've I mentioned them. But which of these distilleries, according to the Spirits Business, features in the top 10 best sellers? Is it A, Dufton, B, Dalmore, or C, Glen Moray? Which of those three, according to the Spirits Business top 10 best sellers? By the way, we're expecting that to come out again a bit later in the year, but the last one that they have published is November 2021. So according to that list, the featured in there somehow or other is either A, Dufton, B, Dalmore, or C, Glen Moray. Ooh, this is splitting the crowd somewhat. I can see it started to get a bit tricky. This is the penultimate one. There is a banana skin there, and it is a wee bit horrible. It is. A lot of you have got it though. A, Dufton. Dalmore is not and does not feature in the top 10. Glen Moray is not and doesn't feature in the top 10. But the Singleton series from Diageo very much does. It's usually hovering about position 4, 5, 6, thereabouts. I think it's cheating a wee bit because it uses Glendullan, it uses Glenord, and it uses Dufton Distillery. So Dufton features in the top 10, albeit by way of a cheat. Martin Jones is not swearing, but he has said FFS. Gabriel Wilding on 9 out of 9. Terrific. Gabriel, well done. Benny, the same. Fantastic. Benny Fries. Superb. Oh, somebody else. Colin, dogs have no uncles. Okay, how much of an asshat do we have at the end? I think it is one of the most horrible asshat questions I could have come up with. Roy, what are you actually... They're supposed to teach us something or make us think about something, but no, this is just a bit of a brutal... But it might, if you pause, you might get there. Okay. The asshat question at the end is the new malt whiskey yearbook, and I haven't even talked about it. Look at it. Look at it. Can I show you this? I'm so happy. I am so happy about this. I don't know where the page is. You'd think I'd have committed it to memory. But page 73. Whiskey websites to watch. Whiskey and social media. Aquavitae makes it here. Look. Fantastic for the first. And Dramface. Dramface is there too, which is super exciting as well. I've not had a chance to read it yet. I do what I do every year with these books, and I buy multiple copies. If you don't buy this book, you just need to buy this book. You'll certainly get a lot better at the quiz, that's for sure. But I haven't mined this book for much of the questions this week, but in future I absolutely will be. Of course, I always do. But I am in the malt whiskey yearbook. I can't tell you how happy that was. Ethan Sterner is saying congrats. Might seem like a small thing, but for me, it's just, hey, that's amazing because I've been buying this and reading this for years. To see me in it is, hey, it's amazing. Thank you all. Thank you. The new malt whiskey yearbook is out and features close to 800 world distilleries. But how many of those are in Scotland? How many are in Scotland? I'm not just going to show you numbers. It's an asshat question, of course. It's obtuse. Is it about the same as, and I'm speaking about distance in miles, the distance between Annandale and Tomatin? B, the distance between Deanston and Turmore? Or C, the distance between Springbank and Brora? I'm not going to rush this one. I'm going to give you time to think about it. Whiskey Hog is celebrating 10 out of 10 before I've even given them the answer. Cursor in Seattle is saying, fantastic, good job, Roy. Thank you very, very much. Jaime, not Jamie, is saying there's a 2023 now. I don't even have the 2022. Buy them both. Buy both of them, Jaime. They're fantastic. Best score so far, says Ian Bruce. Terrific stuff. Blair, why is Roy talking about himself in the third person? Jimmy, you're funny. You're just a funny man. McAllen is saying, as the crow flies, no, as Google Maps informs Doc. Doc, it's so nice to have you in at this time, buddy. It's nice to have you late. I hope you're not too tired. This is causing some discussion. As a Canadian, I haven't a clue. I know that, and it's difficult. I guess if anybody's not from Scotland or not visited Scotland, this is going to be extra asshatty and extra hard. But it's always the idea that the asshat at the end can almost be like throw a guess. I can tell you that Peter Lee is saying that's a good one. Let's see if Peter got it right. Did Peter answer? I don't know if he's put an answer in. Peter, I didn't see your answer, but I can tell you that the Malt Whisky Yearbook now features 134 Scotch malt distilleries. So out of 800 is a lot, but you know, Scotch, you know, it's still a significant chunk despite the boom. 134 are featured, which is the same in miles as the distance between B, Deanston, and Turmore, around about 135 miles. The distance between Annandale and Tomatin is 180 miles. And to go from all the way down in Springbank, down in Campbelltown Peninsula there, or the Kintyre Peninsula, all the way up to Brora, which is way, way north of Inverness, up in the northeast. In the Highlands there, you're talking 280 miles. So maybe you would have to have known a wee bit of geography, but a wee bit of thought would have helped you get there. Anybody managing a 10 out of 10 tonight? Who's celebrating? Here in Australia, it's kilometres, lol. I know, of course. It's even worse. Steve Atkins, congratulations. Graham Fraser, 9 out of 10. Can't really use a photo question. No, Graham, that's full marks. You get 9 out of 9, so you're still taking home a full quiz. You submitted the photo one. Well done, buddy. Well done, Steve Atkins. 9 out of 10. Hellswood is happy, fantastic. Taking 9 out of 10, says Ben Whiskey with Molly. Dogs of No Uncles got his 10 out of 10. Congratulations, Colin. Congratulations, Andrew Butler. Huzzah, he's saying. And Gabriel Welding, 10 out of 10. Fantastic. Unbelievable. No, it's believable, buddy. It is believable. I shouldn't say that, but very, very well done. Any other 10 out of 10s as it jumps? Best score ever, says Barter Hordes, 9 out of 10 by a mile or a kilometre, he's saying. Sid Martin, 9 out of 10. Sid, so good to see you, and buddy, I hope you're keeping well. Can't believe I got that last one, says what Ian Whiskey and that. He's got a 7 out of 10. Just let out a wee scream, says he. It's a bit late to be letting out screams, isn't it? Papa Q got 10 out of 10. My goodness. Rob, you got a 10 out of 10? Are you off doing a lap of the living room? No, there you are there, 10 out of 10. Fantastic. I don't want to miss any others. See, I thought it would be a tricky one tonight, but it's always good to see some folk squeezing a wee 10 out of 10. Terrific stuff. So there we have it. Another wee VPub quiz at the end. It's always good fun. Sometimes I wish I was out there. Not really. I'm very happy to be here. But I do like participating, and I want to do better than 6 out of 10 like I did last week. But it's so good to see so many of you doing so well. My wife just told me off, says Steve. I don't care. Well, he's celebrating a 10 out of 10. Absolutely. You've got to take it, buddy. You've got to do it. Time for a dram. It's saying, what do you vote as your whiskey of the year? Personal choice. Okay, he's looking for even more recommendations, and he's on a bottle ban. A bottle buying ban, I should say. Petehead is saying, just checking, is the closest distillery section removed from the closed distillery section removed from the book? With that, it was about 180. Let's see if the closed distillery section. Well, I should have maybe specified that I was talking about open distilleries. There's a whole section on ghost distilleries in this one. Ghost distilleries it's going to be fascinating. Glenfarclas is in there as well. Ooh. Let's see. Jason's going to be interested in that. New distilleries. No, closed distilleries is still there. Page 184. Oh, it's just been shrunk down in order to try and keep things tight. In order to keep things, so it's just a double page spread for the closed distilleries. Now, that's the challenge that Ingvar has as the whiskey landscape is expanding, how you can keep it in this little format book. Ian said, any plans to do a live quiz in person with the community? No, Ian, that's an interesting one. That might be quite good fun. It might be quite good fun to think about that one day. The Whiskey Franco saying another fantastic VPub. Thank you. Thank you very much, Whiskey Franco. And Ben is saying, missing Vin next week, unfortunately, but we'll catch up on it. Got an amazing James Eady tasting with Falkirk Whiskey Club. Good stuff, Ben. I hope you enjoy that. And Helen is saying, thanks for another fine laid back VPub. Enjoy. Excuse me, that just jumped up. I'm going to blame the Port Charlotte for that one because it certainly tasted like that. Apologies. Too much information. She's saying, enjoy your wee break. Thanks very much, Helen. I will. I'm looking forward to it. Peter is saying, oh, I got that one, Frank. And Seb K is saying, great full VPub for a while for me. Thanks, Aquavite. Amazing drams today, and I'm glad to say I've tried a good chunk. Now I have to finish some Portuguese language homework for class tomorrow. Of course, you're in a new environment. You've got to learn the language, buddy. Whiskey Wine Trails is saying, is saying, best place to buy the Malt Whiskey Yearbook, maltwhiskeyyearbook.com. Buy it straight from Ingvar. It's the best way to support him. And if you put a little comment in saying, I'm a barfly, apparently you'll sign the copy of the Malt Whiskey Yearbook for barflies. He signs it for you. Captain Bams is saying, slid in just in time for the quiz. We'll catch the rest on the replay. Pass mark after getting the ASAT right. Terrific, Captain Bams. Congratulations on the pass. And Ian Bruce is saying, I got that one, Ian. Terrific stuff. I've got a dram coming from Ben. Thanks again, Roy. Looking forward to Glasgow Whisky Festival. Ben, thanks to you, my friend. Looking forward to hanging out with you once more there. Cheers. With this lovely, lovely wee Glencairn 15. Looking forward to talking to you more about Glen Scotia once the OSWAs are over. Looking forward to talking to you. Well, everything becomes free reign again, and look at what's happened. Come back. There we go. No, here. Focus on there. That ugly mug. Batter Hordes is saying, first live pub for me in a couple of weeks. Glad to catch it live. Good to have you in again, Robert. It's always a pleasure. I know it's tricky for some people. You just need to not worry about it. Pick it up when you can pick it up. That's when mood and moment suits. Thanks again for organising Aquavite Fun Evening. It's most important of all. Slanchava, everybody. Frank, it's wonderful to have you here, buddy. Can't wait to hang out with you soon. Chris Pollack is saying, hope to see Ingvar soon in the VPub. Aye, well, he's certainly more than happy to come along if we can make things work. I think that what was very good is when we opened the 2022 VPubs with a look ahead with Ingvar, and I think that's something that he enjoyed too. So that could be something to aim for. Enjoy the Aaron adventure, says Mike Molasses. Terrific, Mike. I'm going to raise the rest of my Glencairn 15. And I'm going to talk about all of these things. I'm going to be that enthusiast. I'm going to bang about transparency. I'm going to bang on about natural colour and non-chill filtration and bringing the ABV at the right, because I'm precious about malt whiskey. It's my thing. What else am I going to do? Where else am I going to channel those passions, right? It's just what I enjoy. And the more and more I enjoy whiskey, the more it's important to me. I have to remember that it's not all about that, though. I have to remember that there's lots of other things going on, and it's not all about me and what I love. However, I do find a lot of consensus between what I love and what you love, and a lot of it is to do with natural whiskey. This is the colour of whiskey. It's beautiful. We should enjoy it. I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time. Right now, there's a very soft, penciled topic in the Whiskey Noob. That's not what I'm going to call it, but I'll work on it. In the meantime, please hop along to Vin at No Nonsense Whiskey. Catch the VPub, the pop-up VPub, or the VinPub, as everybody's calling it, next week. And until I see you in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to raise this glass, and I'm going to say, once more, you're all very dearly loved. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me on another Thursday night. Thank you for your support. I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time. Slanchava, whiskey folk. Cheers.